Here we go. All right, so Xavier Giles, man, Beat the Streets NYC alumni. You made your way to Connecticut, I believe, after that.
Yep,
And now you're starting at Princeton. Talk
I
about
am.
the
Yep.
adjustment going into the Ivy League.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun this year. I mean, like the competition, of course, didn't get any easier, so I had to keep improving. Just like when I left school in New York to go to Connecticut, and then Connecticut to Jersey. So yeah, it was a big jump. I mean, like Ivy League, it's been really hard this year. There's some really guys in that good guys in the Ivy League, so I've just been excited to like be able to be pushed by everybody else at all the other schools. Um, so just been a lot of fun. I just love wrestling, so that's all really it's been just fun for me.
Yeah, now speaking of that journey, I believe it began at Eagle Academy under the coaches John McGarry and John Corey. So talk about getting started at Eagle in their youth program.
Yeah, of course. That program was a lot of fun. I remember like I wasn't good at basketball, so I tried wrestling. Like our basketball team was pretty good, so I wasn't just gonna be able to walk into the to the basketball team. But wrestling, kind of accepts anybody, even if you have no experience, which is exactly what they did there. So I tried it out. I remember I was doing like wrestling and I think taekwondo like at an after school program at the same time. And then I think like my sixth or seventh grade year, I like just stuck with wrestling. And then it was kind of just that after that, wrestling throughout the entire school year and then throughout the summer going to camps and stuff. Um, yeah, so it really opened me up to traveling for wrestling as well. I traveled a few different places in the country. I went to Fargo one year while I was still in Team New York. Bunch of different places, yeah. And I still talk to McGarry and Corey. They still reach out to me after matches and stuff. Got to get them down for matches. They've done a lot for me, so it's been great.
Talk about like how Corey and McGarry have developed you as a wrestler and as a person.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was like accountability. Eagle Academy was an all boys school, and I think them as coaches and as role models they were pretty big on holding yourself accountable for like not even just wrestling. I remember a lot of times in the classroom, like if you failed the test or did bad on something, whatever, you weren't gonna be able to wrestle in a dual meet or wrestle in a tournament that weekend. So I think they did a great job of instilling in us, all the people on the team, what it meant to be accountable as a young man. So I think that was like a pretty important thing that they set up for me as just a person. And then that kind of bled into the wrestling as well. They just wanted us to go out on the mat and have fun. And then they did a good job of that, having fun practices. I remember Corey a lot of the times was just crazy. I still don't know how he is now in the room, but he just would sweat crazy. He wouldn't stop going. He was crazy. So on top of the accountability, they came with a lot of energy and uh a lot of strength on the mat. Just what it means to be like a good dedicated wrestler. I think they also showed us what that meant too.
Now, when you got the opportunity to head to Connecticut, what was it like? Like, what was the conversation like? How'd you feel at first? Did you want to stay in the city? Did you want to just take the opportunity right away? Like, what was that about?
Yeah, I remember it all pretty vividly. Uh, Coach Conroy, which is the head coach in Connecticut. When I went, I had met him on the floor at Fargo. After I had went like 2-2, I was still wrestling for Team New York in New York. Um, and I was sitting with one of my friends, Sean Tanzi, I believe. You might know who that is. Yeah, I was sitting with him, and I forget how they know each other, but he like introduced me to him, and he had asked me, he was like, "Yeah, what are some of my goals and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to wrestle like Division I college. I'm not that great, but it would be cool. Like it was a goal that I had always had as like a young kid, even though like at the time I think I didn't know like what exactly like that meant and like the type of like work and caliber that it would be. But I still wanted to wrestle Division I wrestling. And I think we just had like a little conversation and he didn't really give much of a reaction. I don't think he was just kind of listening, excuse me. He was just kind of listening. And then I remember like after the tournament, I think I was either in the airport or I had gotten home already. he like DM'd me on Instagram. And he's like, yeah, just come check out the school. Like, I just want you to come check out the school. And I was like, why the heck would I go and transfer my junior year? He wanted me to repeat junior year, which I did. But at first, like, it all sounded really crazy. And I was like, I'm not going to do any of that. But we looked at the school. The school was pretty nice. He was nice. The coaching staff was nice. Just everybody there was really nice. And after a little more thought, I had to convince my mom to let me do junior year again because initially she didn't want that. Um, but it was actually a good idea because I think it opened up another year of experience and like exposure to being recruited for me. Because like I said, I had wanted to come to Princeton, so I think that extra year really did that for me. So yeah, we kind of were like, wow, I guess, it's a considerable option. And I remember like calling, being on the phone with McGarry, and it was a pretty emotional like conversation because they had done so much for me, and like I just wrestled there, and I thought I was gonna graduate from there. All my friends were there. Like that was a big part of my life, Eagle Academy. So when I told them that I was leaving to wrestle for a school in Connecticut, it was a pretty emotional like conversation, just because it was kind of hard to say that because even though it was a random call for him, he didn't see it coming. I didn't really see it coming either that I was going to transfer out. It was super like a almost like a spontaneous decision. But yeah, it was a very emotional time. But I think like ultimately it was a good decision because I'm not sure that I'd be here now. So I'm just kind of glad that I did it. And I'm glad that Corey and McGarry were both understanding and are still supportive of me today. I think that's the biggest part, and that's what really matters, that they're still supportive and they don't care if it's at a school in Connecticut or if it's at U Academy. They just wanted the best for me.
Yeah, that's right. That's what every coach should want, the best for athlete.
Yeah.
So now I want to ask, is Suleiman Ba older than you? Or you around the same age?
We're definitely around the same age. I'm not exactly sure if he's older or younger than me, but yeah, he's my boy. We hung out all the time. We still hang out some of the time. I'm pretty sure I saw him like a few months ago. I went to some event in the city, but yeah, we're pretty close.
I remember that dual meet that I was at, and I got to talk to both of you, Princeton and Columbia. Did you guys get to talk or like at least exchange a quick? Like, did you make eye contact at least before the
Yeah,
video
yeah.
started?
We had I think I want to say Coach Penn was there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
alumni night.
Yeah, yeah, he was there. So I think he wanted us to get in a picture. So we took a picture together and we talked a little. So yeah, it was nice seeing him there.
Yeah, yeah, and I was kind of surprised, like out of nowhere. I just saw you step on the line. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You kept
Yeah,
it kind of
yeah.
quiet. Wow, he's starting. But how does it feel? Like, is Suleiman somewhat of an inspiration to you? Like when you saw him starting at Columbia back in his freshman year, did it make you think like, okay, I'm also from the same spot that he's from, came through NYC like he did the whole transfer thing and all that. Like you pretty much had the same path he had. Did that give you some inspiration, some confidence, saying like I could do it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think looking back on it, I always kind of looked at him. I think Suleiman was always like pretty good, and I always looked at him like, yeah, like we reflected off of each other. So I think when I saw that like he committed to Columbia and he was starting as a freshman too, that definitely made me think like, yeah, like I think I'm doing something right because I wanted to go to Princeton, different Ivy League, better Ivy League. That's besides the point. Like I wanted to go there, I'm gonna start too. And I think it's kind of like we're reflecting off of each other, like the great success that we've kind of accomplished. So it's been a big deal, like seeing him be able to accomplish that because it just keeps me wanting to get better too. So it's really nice. Somebody from like your hometown doing the same thing like that.
Yeah, and then have you ever had any conversations with Denzel Perez at all?
I've seen him. I saw him at the Ivy tournament. I think I didn't talk to him too much because I was wrestling and I don't know. I was just kind of moving around about. But I did see him, and it was good to see that he's at Penn and he is wrestling there. I love that too. Another like person from back home, seeing them like achieve big things, and I just think like it's a great representation of like where we come from.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking a little deeper on the representation part, something I talked with Suleiman about when I interviewed him, y'all three black kids from the Bronx, it's not a lot of us
Yeah,
in wrestling, right? So it's
yeah.
like, how do you feel about that? Like even having the shot to go to Ivy League school, like Suleiman's the only one in Hunts Point that could say he goes to Columbia. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's great. Like you said, the only like black kids at an Ivy League school. I probably could say the same thing for like my neighborhood. So I think it's just great for representation, and the wrestling just has opened these doors for us because we just like look at where we're at. We're like accomplishing so much. So I think it's just great. Like I said, wrestling has just done so much. Sport has that just has given so much for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you go on all those trips and stuff like that. Even like when people would get brought into the city and stuff, we get to interact with them. It's all like really cool.
Yeah.
Especially like with the technique. Like, how do you feel the technique differed when you went out to Connecticut? Because they drill differently. They have their own different like tactics and things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just like different emphasis on different like positions. At the end of the day, you can get good at any state, obviously, but yeah, it's a little different. Like New York, I'm trying to think of like a kind of a specific example, but I feel like New York is a lot more on your feet, like being very good, which of course is important. But Connecticut was a lot more like scrambling and like wrestling on the mat, which I think is a skill I really didn't have like when I was going to Connecticut. So I was able to just wrestle out of positions once they hit the mat, and trying to scramble. So like you said, different skill sets like as you travel the country. And then here in Jersey, it's like top work is pretty important. Being a hammer on top. So yeah, I think like you said, it's just different kind of where you go, which is pretty interesting.
And then like, how did it feel like competing in your first D1 dual meet? Like, how nerve wracking was it?
Yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. I'm trying to remember the exact first duel. I don't really remember which one it was, but um it was I don't know. My first very tournament was the Princeton Open, which was just pure fun. So by the time the duel rolled around, I don't know, I kind of just put on the singlet and it was just like it's just like business, I'm wearing a different singlet, but it's just still just a wrestling match, is what I kind of try to tell myself, and I just want to go out there and have fun. So yeah, my nerves were definitely a little bit higher at the beginning of the year, but now they just kind of like, I'm just going out there to have fun and what I've been doing for so long, just having fun on the mat.
And now you made it all the way to the Ivy League tournament because what a lot of people don't realize when they get to college wrestling is you don't have that starting spot for long. Like you have to keep it. it ain't just making weight. Like you have to keep it. If you start declining and then the guy that you beat in the wrestle off starts doing better, they switch it. So it's really great that someone from NYC was able to keep the starting spot the entire time. So then you go into the Ivy League championships. What was going through your head having the Ivy League championships instead of the EIWAs that they used to have in the past?
Yeah, it was obviously a little weird for me. Like this was my first year, so all I know is the Ivy Championships to a degree. It was kind of sad to hear that they were leaving the EIWA and it was just going to be the Ivy. But it's whatever. The goal is still the same. I wanna win the tournament. I want to do as good as well in the tournament as I can. So I just kind of was at the tournament like I just got to take it one match at a time, and just try and make it fun. That's what I just try and do at wrestling, just try and make it fun. But yeah, it was just interesting that it was kind of a small tournament now that we had left the EIW. It was pretty small, but I still had to wrestle every match and be focused every match.
Do you think that it made it a little bit tougher not having the lesser teams involved in the tournament? You only had like the really big teams as
Um,
far as Ivy goes.
yeah, as far as Ivy goes, no, I wouldn't say necessarily no. I feel like even if you have like a lesser team or whatever, every guy's gonna want to step out of the mat and still want to like scramble and like be ready to wrestle. So I don't know. I think also my first year I still was like figuring a lot of things out, a lot of the college wrestling out, like the aggression, like the hand fighting, and just like wrestling every single position. So I think overall it was pretty tough for me, but I don't think just the fact that it was just the Ivy and not all the other teams made it any harder or less hard.
Now, recently you competed at the U.S. Open. Talk about I guess it's the Princeton RTC or the NJRTC.
Yeah, NJRTC. Yeah, yeah. The coaches, Reese, the head coach there, he's great. It's kind of the same like big energy that they bring in the wrestling room for just like the Princeton, like a regular team practice. Um, Yeah, I didn't do as great at the US Open as I wanted to, but I still see myself getting a lot better from when season ended, still making jumps and still beating good guys. And like I said, it's just like a lot of fun out there. So I think I'm going to U23s in Ohio in a few weeks as well. So like the coaches just want to see me get as many matches in as possible, which is I'm excited for. I just want to keep wrestling and trying to keep getting better.
That's great that you see it as fun. Like you want to compete, so you want to be on the top of your game and keep eating right and keep training and recovery from the hard workouts and things. So, how do you feel? Well, why do you think that not every wrestler has that mindset? Because I see some really good wrestlers that didn't compete at the U.S. Open. It's like, why not?
Yeah, I think obviously everybody is a little different. I think some people, maybe they just started so young and the way they started isn't doesn't come from a place of fun in their heart, like a place of enjoyment. Um, so I think not every wrestler has that. So I think I'm actually pretty lucky to just actually genuinely enjoy wrestling. Like I have practice today and I've just been thinking about it all day. Like I'm just excited to go to practice later, and just be able to like scrap, different guys come in the room all the time. And I think having that different feel and knowing that like you can get better or knowing or leaving practice knowing you could have done better is like always kind of fun for me. So that's just kind of what I look forward to. And I think, like you said, some people didn't want to compete. Maybe they have different reasons, maybe they just don't find it as fun. Maybe they're just doing it just because they have to, but I'm doing it because I find it fun.
And that's what's gonna aid your longevity in the sport if you really love it.
Yep.
So, in terms of like alumni and stuff, do you see yourself visiting Beat the Streets as often as you can?
Yeah, I definitely am trying to want to give back to wrestling as much as it's given to me. I haven't had a chance to go down there yet and work anything or be around for like a practice or a clinic or anything. I think Glory and Rivera were down there a little while ago, giving back. But yeah, definitely when I have the chance, I'm gonna go back and show something, because like I just remember kind of being in the same spot that those kids are in now, having people who are on teams now who went through the same exact like path as them, going back and giving back. So I definitely want to be that person too, to be able to do that.
Do you think that the alumni support and the alumni doing big things like you, Suleiman, and Denzel, do you think that you guys coming back or some of us older guys coming back is going to be what's going to help the city really get to the upper echelon? Not just in the terms of technique, because anyone can show technique. It's not that hard. It's a matter of we were there with them on those mats. You think that's the separator?
For sure, for sure. I remember like I would meet different I would meet different alumni who accomplished different things, and I just remember wanting to be like them. And be able to wrestle in these nice college singlets, have these different experiences. So I think those people that come back and kind of keep inspiring people to have fun and to do better is what's gonna like make New York City like better wrestling. I think that's where it's gonna come from.
Yeah, and like Lenny's a big proponent of that now, being an assistant. He went to Princeton just like you. So
Yep,
it's a big deal. And Lenny did big things on the world stage. So I hope when he heals up from his injury, we get to see him compete a little bit more.
for sure. I love Lenny. He's part
Yeah.
of the reason I do Greco. I'm getting back into it. We love Greco.
Yeah. And how do you feel about like Greco in terms of positions? Because people downplay it and things like that, but it's like, being able to control somebody's upper body, that's important. You can't get to their legs unless you control their upper body, if you think about
Yeah, for sure. I think like kind of ties back into just having fun. Me being able to wrestle Greco was a lot of fun because it's another style with a whole new set of like skills and new set of disciplines that you're not going to get from freestyle. So I think yeah, the positioning is great. You learn just how like like you said how to control somebody's upper body differently, and you learn some big fun throws, which are like the funnest part. Throwing somebody for five for the first time. I think that's why a lot of New York City kids do Greco because it's something different and it's something that we're good at. So I just love it.
it. I saw some guys, Tristan Levin in particular from Tottenville down Staten Island. He had placed at folk style states. I think he placed really low in freestyle, and then he wins Greco. So I mean, a lot of the guys that wouldn't do too well in freestyle right away, they do great in Greco. So I mean, I think
Yeah,
it helps.
yeah, that was me too. I think I took like third at freestyle states, and then I won Greco states when I was in New York, and then even in Fargo, like I like dropped like pretty early in Fargo and freestyle, and I'm pretty sure like my senior junior year I lost like in the blood rounds or the round before the blood rounds in Greco. And I think that's another reason, like, and maybe you're not doing as great in one style, like doing Greco kind of keeps you confident that if you keep working at something, it's gonna pay off, maybe even if you're doubting that a little in your mind, but Greco kind of definitely shows that to you, do just hard work.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think that all three styles work together? Because I've had coaches even tell me that Greco is useless. Like, why am I going to throw somebody? I'm not going to do that if I'm down and there's a few seconds left. But I'm like, you see it happen.
Yeah, no, that I would say I don't know if I would use the term work together, but they definitely all connect for sure. Like you can get in a position in freestyle and realize that is similar to position in Greco, folk style, whatever. I think they're all I think they're all their own style, which is good. But the fact that you're able to connect them and learn this like the same or different things from them is what makes them good. So they definitely are all connected, interconnected.
Yeah, yeah. So what have you been working on the most heading into the U23s if you're definitely going to go there?
Yeah, I've been working kind of just on like my single positioning, like keeping my head up, hands above the knees so that you don't get wizard. And then just like match tactics, my last match at U20s, like it didn't go the way I wanted just because I was didn't have the best match tactics, like giving up just one for a step out instead of four on the edge. That's a big part of the match that can make it go your way or not make it go your way. So kind of just working on that. And then of course just wrestling every position, which is like the biggest part. You just can't stop wrestling.
Yeah, it's true, it's true. And how do you feel about because you're in some of these bigger tournaments now? If you're kind of going in there a little banged up, because most people might be a little banged up, and you think that your seeding might not be affected too much going into the next big tournament, like let's say Big Tens, whatever. You see some guys dropping out, and then they'll settle for like a low placement after they wrestle a few matches, knowing that they're still going to go All American later on, or whatever the case. So, how do you feel about that versus guys that just go wrestle hard throughout the entire tournament, no matter what?
Yeah, I think the guys that go and wrestle hard throughout the tournament, no matter what, if they're banged up or not, those are the guys that are really going to place, not the guys that are like trying to take it easy because they know they're banged up. Because like I said, the coaches here at Princeton just kind of taught me that you got to be tough and wrestle every position. So if the next guy is feeling horrible, he's feeling banged up, but he's willing to wrestle and he's willing to wrestle every position versus a guy who feels maybe not banged up at all, but they just aren't willing to wrestle as much. I think the guy that wants to wrestle more is going to win. The guy that's ready to bring it all on the mat, leave it all on the mat. So like I said, the coaches here, they kind of just explain that to me, which is what I try and go into the mindset with every match. Like sometimes I do feel banged up, but it really doesn't matter. You just gotta wrestle. You just gotta leave it all on the mat.
Definitely, definitely. And it seems like you're going to carry that mindset into U23s.
Yep.
So another question is, I see these high schoolers beating up these top-notch guys, Jax Forrest in particular. It's not something that's like uncommon. Well, it is uncommon, but it's not something we haven't seen before. Like Kerry Colette back in the day before we were born, he was doing that. But now we see like two, three, four guys doing that. It's like, and Jax Forrest is doing it like more predominantly than anybody else. So it's like after you become a bigger deal, because I'm sure you're going to be, how do you feel about that situation of like these high schoolers coming in? Because it's not just passing the torch. It's like somebody that's a teenager beating like a 25-year-old, multiple time All American, NCAA champ and stuff. It's like, how does this happen?
Yeah, I think it's honestly just great. I mean, like you got guys that are young but are understanding wrestling better, which I think is like just comes from a lot of like play wrestling and understanding positions. So I mean, it sucks to see like your favorite wrestlers go down, but I think it's also great for the sport because we're seeing like a level of like understanding and mastery in wrestling that we've never seen before, which I think is great. Like hopefully those guys are gonna go to the world tournament. They're gonna go to the Olympics and they're just gonna crush it. So I mean, it's also inspiring knowing that you have people like that you got to beat, you got to work toward to beat. So there's always something to get better at, and I just think it shows that these guys are always working to get better. And it just shows if you like If you take up off the gas too much, somebody's going to beat you, somebody's going to pass you. So I just think it's great for the sport.
So how seriously would you take it if you had to draw a high schooler, a high level high schooler in like the US Open next year or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna look at them as a high schooler. I'm just gonna look at them as another person in the tournament. And, I'm gonna just have to stick to the things that I know help me win matches, and I'm just gonna wrestle just like that. Um, like anybody can be beat. So, it doesn't really matter. He's a high schooler. He's a fifth year in college. You just got to stick to your tactics and just try and just make sure you go out there and compete hard.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So it seems you, Suleiman, and Denzel, soon enough, you're going to be a starter at some point. You guys have the right mindset. You're on the right path. So I'm going to ask you guys, coming from NYC, what do you think it's going to take for NYC to really reach high heights as a whole? Because you got guys like you and Suleiman, you had the chance to get more exposure in other places and it helped elevate your game like crazy. But you still come back, you still know where your roots are. But then you got guys like Denzel, he NYC through and through, and he made it to an Ivy League school. And at some point, through the next like 4 years, he'll start at some point. But what do you think it's going to take for NYC as a whole to just become a really big deal to where like we're dangerous? We're not looked at as the bottom of the totem pole anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think coaches that are like Corey and McGarry that love wrestling and that are willing to work with kids, and then kids that also love wrestling and are trying to get better. I think that's the biggest thing. And then if you just have like that kind of great combination, like I said, playing, learning through positions and understanding level wrestling on a new level, then you're gonna have some great wrestlers that come out of New York. It's not impossible. It's possible. We've seen it before. So I just think if we just keep evolving, like the people that are surrounding wrestling and the amount of effort and love that they're putting into wrestling, it'll just keep getting better.
To follow up on that, do you think it has to be like a feeder system, like with Eagle Academy, MS 129, that's what Suleiman's from, Grand Street Campus kind of has their feeder going, or could there be anomalies like Brandon Nunez back in the day when I was in high school, or even now, Brendan Sprague from Monsignor Farrell? He was at the Open with you. I don't know if you saw him, but he only started wrestling in ninth grade, and he's been killing it.
Yeah, I think it can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be like a legacy program that's historically had good wrestlers. I think those programs will help a lot because those coaches obviously know what it takes, and the athletes know what it takes as well. But I think if you kind of put them all in the same ecosystem, at the end of the day on the same mat, that's just going to cause one other person to get better. Just cause them both to get better, being able to compete against that person. So I think anybody can do it. It just has to keep making everyone better. I think it'll just be good for New York.
Yeah, sure. I agree. I agree. All right. So, X, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was great having me. Great talking to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it was great seeing you at that Columbia duel out there scrapping.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch U.S. Open matches. Been kind of busy, but I'll get to the U.S. Open, do a review on
yeah,
that, and at the U23s, let's see what happens.
yes, sir.